Well, Hani Mahmoud joins us now from Deir Al Balah outside the Aqsa hospital. And the latest airstrikes just go to show, Hani, how the simplest of tasks like looking for internet can mean you lose your life in Gaza.
Yes, Simon, this has been part of the pattern of attacks we've documented and monitored for the past 7 months. The attacks on all means of life, all social services have been eliminated, to include the services as simple as being connected to the internet or having your phone charged properly. A group of people were on Al Jalaa Street, that's at one of the major streets in Gaza City, where at a point trying to get internet connection were targeted by a drone. That's an attacker drone that targeted them by firing at least one missile at the crowd. 3 people reported killed right at the spot, and 1 more person reported killed inside the hospital as soon as arriving to the hospital, that's sustaining critical injuries and could not make it. There are other injuries who were transferred to the hospital but are still at very critical conditions, particularly at this difficult time. Look at a hospital that is largely running at a very low capacity in terms of medical staff, and the medical supplies inside the hospital are unable to provide the necessary needed medical support whatsoever. On a separate attack, the Israeli military continue to strike and to intensify its artillery shelling, as well as the airstrike on Jabalia refugee camp, where more people reported killed and causing a great deal of destruction, including a journalist and his family within the past couple hours, as journalists were inside the refugee camp documenting the Israeli attacks on the public facility. The residential buildings were attacked, along with members of his family were reported killed in an airstrike.
Hani, as we were coming to air, we got word that the United Nations is saying the number of people displaced from Rafah in the last week or so, we're not talking about the total number of displaced Palestinians, just the number displaced from Rafah is now 600,000. What does that look like on the ground there?
Yes. You know, Sammy, we're expecting the number to increase dramatically within the coming days as the Israeli military is pushing deeper into the central part of Rafah city, where more than the 600,000 that we're looking at now fleeing Rafah city, more people are going to be forced into this enforced displacement. And just to give background information, Rafah has been the refuge for 1.5 million displaced Palestinians for the past 6 months, who fled the horror of the war in the northern part in Gaza City, and more recently from Khan Yunis and the central area. Right now they found themselves in the line of fire as the Israeli military intensifies its attacks. And just to remember also, the past 7 months haven't been easy on Rafah. The city was repeatedly attacked despite declaring it as a safe zone for the hundreds of thousands of families who have been sheltering inside the city. But right now, those 600,000 people, and the number is going to increase, are pouring into either parts of Khan Yunis, that's the evacuation zone in Al Mawasi area, but the vast majority are coming to the central area, mainly into Deir Al Balah city, which something that we look right now in the streets and on all the public facilities available on major areas. Any available pocket of land here is full of people right now. More people are pouring into the city. More people are using, making the city run out of space, running out of infrastructure that is already overwhelmed. The fact that there is a serious lack of basic necessities such as water supplies and water and food supplies, as well as medical supplies, making it very difficult for this large number of people to be accommodated.
All right, thanks so much. Hani Mahmoud there. Now, Israel's defense minister is calling on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to rule out any Israeli post-war control over Gaza.
אני קורא לראש הממשלה I call on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to declare that Israel will not have a civilian rule over the Gaza Strip, that there will be no Israeli military administration in the Strip, and that a governing alternative to Hamas in the Gaza Strip will be promoted immediately.
Mohammed Jamjoom joins us now live from Amman in Jordan because the Netanyahu government has shut down Al Jazeera in Israel. So, Mohammed, first of all, what do these statements tell us about the severity of division in the cabinet right now?
Well, Sami, there is a very public argument playing out right now with members of the war cabinet in Israel. You had that press conference that happened just in the last few hours in Tel Aviv, in which Yoav Gallant, the Israeli defense minister, said, among other things, that the government needed to make a decision about post-war governance in the Gaza Strip. He went on to say that he would not support open-ended Israeli military rule over the Gaza Strip. He said, I will not agree to the establishment of a military government in Gaza. According to him, a civilian military regime in Gaza will become the main effort in there and come at the expense of other arenas. We will pay for it in blood and victims, and it will come at a heavy economic cost. He also said that soon after the war began, that he had promoted a plan for a new Palestinian administration in Gaza that was not linked to Hamas, but that he had gotten no response from various Israeli cabinet ministers and forums. So he's clearly very frustrated about this and saying there needs to be a post-war plan and there should not just be under military rule. Shortly after that, you had a response from the Prime Minister, from Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu said, as long as Hamas remains, no other actor will run Gaza, certainly not the Palestinian Authority. And then after that, you had Benny Gantz, who is a member of a war cabinet, a former defense minister in Israel, and he publicly stated that Gallant, meaning the defense minister, speaks the truth, that it is the leadership's responsibility to do the right thing for the country at all costs. So these are three members of the war cabinet in Israel at a critical time having a public dispute about what needs to happen going forward. You have Benny Gantz backing Yoav Gallant, arguing with Benjamin Netanyahu, and it's all really just going to show how complicated the situation is right now and how the divisions are being laid bare throughout the Israeli government. Sami?
And all of this coming after we've heard doubts from US officials, Mohammed, about an outright Israeli victory, about an Israeli post-war plan. Is that some of that building up to kind of undermine Netanyahu now?
Well, this certainly looks as though Yoav Gallant is heeding the advice of the Americans. And over the course of the last few days, when you look across the Israeli media landscape, we are seeing more and more quotes from Israeli military officials, unnamed officials, but officials nonetheless speaking to Israeli media, expressing grave concerns about where things stand when it comes to the war and the decision-making of the Prime Minister. On the one hand, these military officials have said that they're very worried about the relationship going forward with the U.S., that they feel that there may have been a fracture and they're worried that it will only grow, even though publicly the defense minister has said that any disagreements with the U.S. will be handled behind closed doors. We're hearing other military officials say they're worried that the relationship with the U.S. is close to potentially being broken. They're also concerned that if there are further weapon shipments from the U.S. that are halted, that would impact not just the war in Gaza, but also might impact future conflicts in other arenas and on other fronts. And they're also just concerned, some of them have said that they are concerned that the Prime Minister is prolonging the conflict in order to continue to survive politically, because once the war is over, there is so much outrage of the intelligence failure that led to the October 7th attack that they believe that the Prime Minister's days would be numbered. So a lot of concern for military officials these days. Certainly what we're hearing now today from Yoav Gallant certainly indicates that perhaps at the highest levels of the military in Israel, they are concerned about what the U.S. is advising, and that perhaps they should be listening closer than Netanyahu is doing at this time. Sami?
Thank you so much. Mohammed Jamjoom there.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.